Why in the world, if you're retired or retiring soon, assuming you're a saver, would you want to take a bunch of risk when you don't have to? So our fourth and final safest asset for the 21st century, believe it or not, I know this is going to shock you, is what we call dividend-oriented ETFs. Now, what does ETF stand for? It stands for Exchange Traded Fund. Now, keep in mind, what we're talking about here in a minute is the stock market. Folks, I've been licensed to sell securities since 1985. I've never had a problem with the stock market. What I have a problem with is savers putting too much money in the stock market. And let me say this as a preface as we describe these in just a second. The description of this product I'm going to give you can lose money. The other three products basically are protected. We're talking about possibly, you don't have to, my wife Susan would never do this, possibly inserting some of your money into something like this. So it could make some sense. So let's take a look at this. We're generally tracking an index with this particular ETF. There's a bunch of them. We use Charles Schwab for our platform to grab these ETFs because they're very inexpensive. And basically in this particular ETF we're talking about, it has a bunch of stocks, basically large company stocks. Let's take a look at some of these. You probably recognize some of these names that are flying by the screen here. And you might say, well, yeah, Tony, I'd like to invest in this stock or this stock. But I always say, yeah, but what happens if that stock or this stock goes down? This way, with an ETF, we're spreading the risk among several different stocks. Now, as we'll see in a minute, yeah, it could still go down, but the beauty of this product is we can take some of our money, some of it, and if you want to continue to take a little bit of additional risk, you can. Now, I like this ETF. Why? Because savers like what we call dividends. So why do savers love these products? Well, first of all, they like the low expenses associated with it. That number is 0.06%. So folks, if you have $100,000 in this fund, that's only $60 a year. Now granted, as your advisor, we charge a small fee of 0.8%, but you know most growth mutual funds, they charge anywhere from 0.8% to 1%. So this is a huge savings in fees. The next thing people like about them is the dividends. This particular fund pays right at about 3.5%. So if you had $100,000 in the fund, it's going to pay about $3,500 in dividends. And even if the fund goes down, there's still going to be a dividend in most cases. Now, while dividends are not guaranteed, they're fairly predictable. And again, something savers like. Let's take a look at the yield on this. How has this actually performed over the years? Now, as you can see here, the first year, in the last 12 months basically, it's gone down about 10%. So it did lose money. It can lose money. Now, if we go through a longer period of time, let's say over 5 years, it's averaged a little over 5%. Not bad at all. And then finally, if you go back to inception, this fund came out in 2011. It made just over 10%. So not bad at all. So you think about this, you say, well, Tony, let's talk about these four safest investments again. And now you've introduced something that has an element of risk. Why would you do that? Because quite frankly, folks, there is no one size fits all out there. That's why you need an independent fiduciary that also has a background in retirement planning to help you with these investments. Here's why. It's funny how this has happened as we talk about the idea of dying and running out of money and people coming into me with all kinds of different notions from this last stock market crash. Some people are still okay having money in investments. You know what? I've had people that say, Tony, I know you love those annuities. I don't want any annuities. That's perfectly okay. We don't have to do annuities if you don't want to. Folks, again, I've been a fiduciary for years. We can take the Charles Schwab platform. We can get bank instruments through there for you. We can get government bonds for those investments through Charles Schwab. We do that. And then, of course, we can add some element, again, some percentage of the stock market to it.